friend of mine working on this house, the third edition on he's actually walked up to that. She's trying to that's like the big goal. I'm trying to see if I can find something. All right, if you think of anything, I'll bug John about it. Right. Thanks, Nelson. Oh, yeah. I just was reading it. Oh, yeah. All furnaces hold out.
During the day, usually we don't get that cold during the day.
Right.
Sometimes at night. Where did you live before you came here?
Before I was here, I was in Jersey. Lived in Cleveland. Yeah, that's the one. Kind of similar.
The guy on the far left is the lady. First lady. Stewart Avenue.
All right, good evening. We are going to call the December 20th District Commission meeting to order at 5:02. All right, could we get a roll call, please? Here.
Andrew.
Here.
Jeremy.
Here.
Dan.
Here.
Dana.
Here.
Christy.
Here.
Great, thank you. So Mr. Mitchell is absent. You said he's on his way. So, I don't know, we'll just...
Yeah, I think that,
We'll wait till the end to approve his absence if he doesn't show up. Is that okay?
yeah.
Perfect. All right, approval of the agenda. Luis, is there any amendments to the agenda?
No, there are not.
All right, is there a motion to approve the agenda,
So moved.
Thank you, Dana. Is there support?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Eric. Those in favor, will say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, the agenda is approved. Introduction of guests. Are there any guests who are not applicants today? All right, hearing none, seeing none. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? All right, thank you. Hearing none. Luis, would you read the disclaimer, please?
Yep. And here's Mr. Mitchell as well. So.
Chapter 16, Section 22 of the City of Kalamazoo Code of Ordinance states that historical preservation is a public purpose. To serve that purpose, the Historic District Commission is hereby charged with the following responsibilities. A, the Kalamazoo Historic District Commission is empowered to regulate work on the exterior of historic resources and non-historic resources in the historic districts in the City of Kalamazoo, and shall otherwise have all powers invested in historic district commissions pursuant to the Local Historic Districts Act, MCLA 399201, 1970 PA 169, as amended 1992. B, to regulate work on resources which by city ordinance are historic or non-historic resources located within local historic districts, including but not limited to the moving of any structure into or out of or the building of any structure in an historic district. The following documents are available in the Community Planning and Economic Development Department located at 245 North Rose Street. These documents will help assist property owners in understanding the responsibilities of owning property in a local historic district, MCLA 399201, 1970 PA 169, as amended 1992, the Michigan Local Historic District Act, the Code of Ordinances, City of Kalamazoo, Michigan, Chapter 16, Historic District, the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation and Guideline for Rehabilitating Historic Buildings, 1990, Standards and Guidelines for Kalamazoo Historic Districts, and maps of Kalamazoo local historic districts. These documents and maps are also available on the City of Kalamazoo website at www.kalamazoocity.org/historic preservation.
Thank you, Luis. Also, we welcome Mr. Mitchell. Thank you. We'll mark you as here. All right, moving into application review. First up is 447 West South. If you can come forward and state your name for the record and tell us about your project, please.
Jeff Luce, Nelson Nave Architect.
Great, thank you. Can you sort of walk us through the project and what you're proposing to do, please?
Sure. This is the Kalamazoo House B&B next to the Art Museum. In the back of the house, there's a carriage house. It's not original to the house, I understand, but anyway, a little bit newer. And the owners live upstairs in a one-bedroom apartment, and they'd like to have a three-way addition. It's a deck, it's a carport, and it has a roof on it. The structure will be, we started out looking at steel, but it's gone to wood. And it will attach to the building. The roof slope will be the same as, the existing roof slope. The trim will be wood. And let's see, I guess that's about it.
Thank you. Questions from commissioners?
Tell me more about the plywood facade. I'm concerned on the corners how that might obscure your, I saw that in the pictures, the posts were really nice. How does that tie in?
You mean the columns or the?
columns, yeah, sorry.
Well, they, actually, at this point, they may be timbers instead of, or posts.
Instead of the sculpted.
There'll be some trim on them that will look somewhat like some of the trim on the house. And there's a wood wall at the on the first floor at the south end also. Anyway, what else can I tell you? It'll be stained, oil stain, because a lot of it'll be treated, the posts anyway.
Yeah, I thought that the sketch had plywood written on it, but maybe I'm mistaken.
Well, the wall on the end might have
The
plywood.
panels,
Yeah,
and where that ties into those columns, well, the columns will still have relief and they'll still show the columns, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Nelson, could you talk a little bit about, it looks like maybe that awning that's getting removed, just what that is, and I assume it's not, like you said, the carriage house wasn't original to the house?
No, it's a fabric awning.
It's fabric?
Yeah.
Okay. And that, we're just gonna remove that in its
Yeah,
entirety?
That's removed.
Okay.
I'm guessing it used to keep rain off the folks going into their door.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, and so I went through and was looking at maps. Obviously, sometimes you get pretty lucky when you're finding images of old houses, and I couldn't find anything of like the construction year of the carriage house. But I was looking at Sanborn maps, and then I was also looking at parcel maps, parcel property maps, whatever you want to call them, from 1873, 1890, and then the Sanborns that I have in the office are 32 and 58, 1932 and 58, and that's where it started to show up. I didn't see it in 1908. There was an outbuilding, but it was in the opposite rear corner, so it was in the southwest corner of the building, so not where the current one is. That's why in my report, at least, I said that that's where I came up with at least my supposed years for it, being at least before 1932, but sometimes after 1908.
One thing you note that you can't see the thing from the addition from the street. It's also in the back where the garages from the Marlboro house, apartments or condos, there's a lot of sort of maintenance going on back there. It's at the back of the art museum.
I had a quick question. I was trying to figure out, with the addition of a deck on the second level, are we also talking about turning that far window into a door?
Yes.
Okay, is that included in normally there would be something also about changing a window to a door. Is there anything in here about that? Do we need to add that, in other words, in order to complete the work, or will they have to do separate thing for that?
Yes, I left that. We only took the drawing so far before we wanted to present it. So.
And I just want to make sure you guys don't have to come back to get approval to do that, because that would be frustrating.
I think if you guys want to amend the motion to, I think if you guys want to amend the motion, and if that's what you think it's going to look like, Nelson, and
It'll look, I hope it'll look just similar to the existing door openings and window openings.
Yeah.
There's a window there, so we'll just drop it down and finish off the brick to match everything else.
okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, but.
Make sure you hit your mic.
But I should include in this motion, what we discussed about the door looking like the other door. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the construction of the carport as complying with Secretary of Interior Standards 9 and 10. The Commission approves a certificate of appropriateness for this project, and approval and all final details to be delegated to the Historic Preservation Coordinator, and then also including in that the door above matches the door below.
Great, thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Andrew. Any further discussion before we vote? Is there any public comment before we vote? All right, hearing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Andrew?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
Okay, you are approved. Luis?
Yep, so I'll get out certificate of appropriateness to you guys by the end of the week, and then we can stay in touch as you move along with the project and start to look at all the other permits, the other permits that you're going to need to do this as well. So we will be in touch.
All right.
Thanks for
Thank you
bringing the
very much.
project in, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
All right, next up is 528 Village. Is there anybody here to present the
didn't know you wanted me to present.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, no, please come up, state your name for the record, and tell us about your project, please.
Sure. My name is Emily Petz, and I'm replacing my non-compliant historic front door with a more appropriate door. So that is the project.
Great, thank you.
So actually, one thing I'll show you or tell you is that the screen is a 36 by 80, so it's already a traditional sized front screen glass door. And then the door behind it is a bit of a different size, but from the road, the appearance is the same as that opening is already the 36 by 80.
Okay. And the new door is going to be a fiberglass door?
Correct.
What
Yep.
what is the material that the door
Is steel
Okay,
with some type of, I don't know, added trim to make it look appropriate.
yep. Okay. Questions, comments from the commission?
These doors, each case stands on its own, but I've always approved the fiberglass door, especially in the paneled style like that. It's pretty much, in fact, one we approved probably 3 or 4 meetings ago was being installed today at the one that they're on South Street. I was working around the corner, so I think, I'm just telling you, I'm A-okay with it, so.
Okay. Is the upper rectangle glass?
Yeah, that is all glass. I don't know
Okay.
why the image is like that. It's a clear glass, low E, argon gas in between, yada, yada. But it should be clear.
Okay.
That's just the image is weird.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everybody
There was
understood that.
specifications also provided, and it'll specify that the glass is confirmed clear.
Great.
Yep.
Okay.
It's an improvement over what's there too, and it's tough to discern the difference of those fiberglass doors unless you're right up on them.
Great. Any other discussion? All right, is there a motion? This is it, buddy. That's your last one.
I move to approve the replacement of the door as specified. This proposal complies with Secretary of Interior Standards numbers 126. The commission approves a certificate of appropriateness for this project. Approval of any final details to be delegated to the historic preservation.
Thank you, Dana. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'd second that.
Thank you, John. Any further discussion before we vote? All right, hearing none, is there any public comment before we vote? Hearing none, Casey, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Andrew,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dana,
Yes.
Christie.
Yes.
Great. Luis?
Yep, so it passed, and I'll send you the certificate of appropriateness for that by the end of the week, and then you'll be good to go with
Great.
installing it, so, yep.
Great, thank you so much.
Yep, of course, thanks for bringing it in.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to approval of minutes. We have the October minutes to approve and the November minutes to approve. If I remember correctly, we didn't have enough people here in November who were part of the October meeting to approve those, so.
I make a motion to approve the October minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. Those in favor will say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, hearing none, the minutes for October are approved. Moving on to the November minutes, are there any changes or are we good to approve them?
Well, I guess I would just add under new business hearings that we didn't have a hearing on the 528, right? Yeah, you're right. So I would
You're
just.
right, that one got After I made the packet, it got withdrawn, but I can go back and indicate that on the notes.
Yeah, that was
not
postponed.
Yeah, at the request of the applicant, so I can go ahead and change that one on there. That is a good catch, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dana. Anything else? All right, can we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I move to approve the minutes for the November meeting as amended.
I'll
Thank
second.
you. Thank you. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, the minutes are approved. Administrative approvals, Luis, anything that you'd like to report to the commission?
No, it's really slowed down substantially now that we've gotten into the colder months. The work that's being applied for is all I can speak to, I suppose. So nothing of note at all. It's all been pretty generic repairs, so.
Okay. Other business, board application reviews?
Yep, so as we all know, Mr. Berg and Mr. Mitchell will no longer be with us on this board after this meeting. So we have some holdovers from last time, and I'm not sure if, I think that two of them are traveling and weren't able to join us. You guys already spoke with them. Jimmy Johnson might come in, but I'm not sure at what time, and I think we got through this business a little bit faster than I anticipated we would.
Was there a time that you had told him?
I just kind of always try to say like 5:20 or 5:25 or something, so, but I know that two of them could.
Okay.
Only Christy wasn't on the board last time to hear them anyways, because you were applying anyhow. I know that we'll only be able to pick up, even though we're gonna have two vacancies, one more person, because we need to fill the architect position anyways, so, just something to keep in mind regarding that as well.
Okay, well, let's give Mr. Johnson a couple minutes to see if he shows up.
Here he is.
Excellent.
Right on cue.
Right on cue. So we actually were just in the throes of talking about new applicants. So typically what we've done is you kind of tell us a little bit about why you're interested, and the commissioners may have a few questions.
Sure.
But I don't know, I missed the last one, Luis.
No,
so-
and I know it's your second round doing this, but I know that some people were absent from the last meeting, and then we have one new member anyways, so if you wouldn't mind entertaining us again with that,
Sure.
that would be great. So you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay, yeah, I applied to be on the commission because, for one, I used to live on South Street, so I had an interest in some of those old homes from that point on. I think that this commission provides a lot of value to our city, our community, because it preserves a lot of the history. And I'm always looking for ways to get involved in the community, and would be interested in learning more about Kalamazoo's history and serving in that way.
Great. Questions?
No, I asked him some questions last time. He's a history teacher at Loy Norks, so
Yep.
go Knights. And,
Yep.
you know, I like the idea of having somebody that could take some of what's happening here, and he's probably weave it into his classroom with, so I'd be excited to have him replace either you or myself.
Thank you, John. Any other questions? We made him come all the way down here for,
Are more applicants showing up, or are we just gonna get somebody?
So the other two could not make it for holiday travel, which I understand as this meeting falls so close to Christmas. So I do appreciate you coming down anyways. The other materials, we can scroll through if you want, and they were in the last packet that I mailed out to you guys. If you guys want to, I think we should at least talk about the other two applicants as well. I guess just for the sake of doing so, as they still wanted to be considered for the positions. As I was saying earlier, we'll only be able to fill one spot right now because we also need to have an architect role. Or not a role, but someone needs to be a licensed architect that's also on the board. So that's just something to keep in mind too. But
okay.
Yep.
So there's one vacancy right now.
There will be two when you guys both come off.
Okay, well, okay. We filled the vacancy. So you're still looking for an architect?
Yes, yep.
And there is no applicants that's an architect
No,
at this
so I
time?
guess effectually there is only one vacancy, if you guys want to look at it that way too, so.
Okay. So we will deliberate, I guess, and make a decision, and then Louise will communicate to Mr. Johnson what the next steps are, or
Yep.
what decision's been made?
Yep,
Sounds
definitely.
good.
Okay, thank you so much for.
Apologies for the short interaction there.
Thanks, sorry I was late.
No, not at all. You weren't at all. You were just on time, so, yeah.
We burned through the first two cases.
It was
really
a
quick, so.
shorter meeting than I thought, so.
Sounds good.
But yes, thank you so much for coming down. Casey, I don't know if you have the one up that has the other materials, and I don't know, I didn't put it into these printouts because it made the packet 75 pages with the materials in it, so I didn't want to do that much printing. I'll be completely candid. But it was in your guys' last packet that I did mail out, and then it is up here too. I know that we didn't have a couple people for those, the hearings last time anyways. But we can certainly go through that.
There was some stellar resume, they were all stellar, very qualified. I mean, it's a good pool of applicants.
Yes,
Thought about that.
I agree.
Did Elizabeth speak at the September meeting when I was here? Is that,
Yes, she did. I think that she was the first one to.
She's a school principal, right?
yeah. And I think she lives on Vine Street and also impressed me with some of her comments when you guys asked her questions.
You say you emailed that to us?
Yep, so in the email version, I did give you guys the complete 75. One of the people's applications is just quite long, but I don't want to cut it short because they did submit it to us for review, so. And if there's anything else that you guys want to see up on the screen too, or anyone that you guys want to go to and just go over their, the kind of question and response thing from the city application portal, if you will, we can also pull that up so we can also look at it together.
Yeah, it's a little weird because at least in my history, we were pulling teeth to get people to come volunteer, so it's kind of strange to have 3 applicants.
Yeah, and I think that we had a great, 5 people applied last time, and then just so many of them wanted to be considered again, which I think is awesome. I might have to do some teeth pulling for the architect one, but we'll see, and it is cool. I think that, this was interesting setup that we had this time because some of them came before anyways, so some of you guys are acquainted with them, some of you aren't, and then it's so close to the holidays, like I said, that it doesn't surprise me at all that people are out of town or getting ready to go out of town, especially with the purportedly imminent storm. Yep.
James T. Johnson, that's who was just here.
They're all educators.
Well, I think any of them would be qualified and a joy to work with. I do think that James brings some diversity in terms of his youth. So.
We do, I was thinking the same thing. I was. Yeah, we need some youths.
Yeah, I know James, he goes by Jimmy. He's taught my children in Norix, and I wasn't here for the other applicants,
I
but
like the idea of somebody that's seeing probably 5 different classes a day that is a history teacher. Something that's attractive to me is for the community and whatever he does with it, I think so if we're gonna make a motion, if it's time to, or if we're still deliberating, otherwise I'd make a motion to nominate him.
Yeah, and I need to remember how the nomination motion goes too, so
yeah, I don't remember.
it's long.
Isn't
It's long?
it we move to recommend
Yeah, 'cause
to
the
the
mayor actually has to
commission?
approve, or
Yeah.
appoint.
For the mayor's gotta approve it.
Right,
Yeah.
Recommend to the mayor. So should I do, I make a motion that
Recommend.
that we recommend to the mayor that James T. Johnson be appointed to the Historic District Commission.
There you go. Thank you.
Right,
I'll
thank you,
second.
John. Thank you, Eric. Any further discussion or deliberation before we vote on that?
I did like the other lady who was principal.
Oh, please make sure to use your microphone, sorry.
They're all great candidates.
We just all have to remember to use the microphones, please.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I think the only thing that I noticed is the woman that you're talking about, I think, is Elizabeth Hartman, yeah? The one who's the principal. She's also the only person who mentioned having actually done renovation work on a historic property. And I know that's not something that I've done a lot of, and I appreciate folks who have that experience on the board to answer some questions about like, okay, how hard is it actually to reglaze a window or fix an old door or something like that? So I can
It's
imagine.
a half-hour home show, Andrew.
But no, seriously, coming from someone who's not a layman who works in it, yeah, that can be helpful information, because a lot of people bite off more than they can chew, yeah.
But the only, I'm not saying that I wouldn't support James's nomination, just thought it was worth noting that was the one difference I noticed between the candidates was she was the only person who mentioned having gone through the process themselves. And I can imagine having some empathy for the applicants isn't the worst thing in the world.
Sure.
And then also, to your point about diversity too, that brings more women to the board too, and more evens that out too.
Okay, good
I
discussion.
guess I'm guessing looking at the diversity, what are we looking at in terms of an architect? Are there female architects
There are.
in town?
I'm sure that there are. I think that that's just going to be a little bit more of a deep dive for me to put out some more pointed calls, if you will, for people. And doing so in a way, I don't know if there's appeals that I can make to AIA things for people, or looking at just further experience maybe for young architects too, younger, not trying to say anything, but just to let them know that this is another good experience to look at historic things, diversify their portfolios or the way that they look at this stuff too, and I think that that'd be a good experience to have.
I think one challenge we have is, I think you have to live in the city.
That is
Right,
definitely
so
a tricky one.
So that narrows it down quite a bit. I had one guy that I was twisting his arm for it, and then he took a position on the AIA board and has a 1-year-old. So I feel bad, like putting the screws to him to do it.
He could still take on a little bit more. So I mean, you just let him know. But
I can also push through the AIA, and I just don't know how many live in the city.
I think
right?
that is certainly a restricting factor. And this is the only one that there's 2 restricting factors on. The only position on this entire board where you have to live in the city and you have to be an architect. So that certainly does confine that pool a lot more.
Yeah.
I know someone who is in their master's for architecture. Does that count, or does it have to be a certified architect?
I think I need to go back, but I think you need to be a licensed
I think you need
architect.
to be licensed. Yeah.
Can I ask a question to people who have been around longer? Well, why wouldn't everyone have to be living in the city?
They do.
I think we do.
Everyone has to live in the
Yeah,
city.
I think everyone on the board
Yeah.
has to be living in
But I
the
think
city.
that it's just, that's the one that's doubly tough then, because you have to live in the city and be a licensed duly
Yeah.
licensed architect in the city, in the state of Michigan. So, I think that still, hitting the AIA newsletters or things like that, would be great. And then just continuing to put feelers out, I guess, wherever possible, so.
Okay, I'll work on my end, see what I can do. But
Yeah, and I appreciate the help that you've given me too.
So until we find an architect, do we just operate without one, or do you extend your
So I think that that's a
stay?
two-pronged answer that I can give you. One, when I read through the ordinance last time, it didn't say anything about you're not allowed to conduct business without the architect. Two is that the ordinance also says that if there's a position that's not filled, you can stay on the position until it does get filled, but that's obviously your prerogative and your choice.
Should we look at broadening it to include an engineer, or say architect/engineer, and what would it take to do that?
I think that would be changing the ordinance, and I think that
Right.
that's a can of.
Well, if we're having trouble
a
getting an
bigger-
architect, we should at least, maybe we should broaden the people that work in this field professionally that would have that type of certification that's very familiar with it.
Yes, I agree, and that would make it bigger. And I need to go back and check too to see if that's a requirement of state law. A lot of the ordinances are just kind of taken directly from state law regarding what's going on for historic district commissions. I think that is a good point though, especially if we look at the pool of people. I don't know a list of architects in my head,
Yeah,
but you're right. People that live outside of the city but work here is certainly like
Right.
another wrinkle. Because I run into a lot of people that are architects, but I can't guarantee that they all live inside the city, even though they might work here.
Yeah, I would think that amending the ordinance to be more broad like that, I would normally completely agree with what John said. I feel like this is a matter of aesthetics and something that architects are more suited towards than engineers. But
Do the engineers at your firm know that you think that way?
I have been called a frustrated engineer by many people. So I don't know, it's building facades, it's not, maybe a structural engineer, but again, structural engineer doesn't care. I had a debate this week with a structural engineer that said, the steel doesn't have to be primed. I'm like, well, it's rusty. Let's prime it. So,
I think that it's just it would be a lengthy process. I think this has operated for so long with the architect thing, it does beg the question if we have leaned, I think that you can have like a 6-year term, honestly, on this, right? So I can't remember exactly what year the HDC was started as a separate entity from the HPC, but I want to say it was sometime in the 70s, and if everyone's taking 6-year terms, that only puts you, you could only have had like 5 or 6 people in that entire span of time too.
I know Jason Novotny was on before me and Nelson before him. So, I think if you asked Nelson, he'd do it. But that, comes with its own, he's pretty opinionated, so.
Yeah, and I don't know, I wish I was more versed in the ordinance right off the top of my head, but there are term restrictions, and then there's like a clause that says how much time you need to wait in between before you can come back on, and I'm not sure if there's a hard and fast cap, like at the top saying you cannot go above this amount of time ever, so, just things to consider, I suppose.
Okay. Well, I think for me, I would like to rotate off. I certainly am happy to come in January, and we can work hard to try to find someone in the next month. I guess I don't want to commit to like forever until we find someone.
No, and I don't think, that's why I said, it's completely your prerogative. If you would be willing to come in January, I think that we would be thankful, and I think that that can also help ease the transition between chair to what we need to do, and we could look at holding elections then in January to make a smoother transition into the next one.
Okay.
So if you'd be willing, I'm sorry.
no, I can do
to pull you away
You know
from
what?
stuff.
I am going to be out of town.
Are you?
I have an interview in Seattle
Okay,
on the 18th.
okay.
So,
So we had to move that meeting that month anyways because MLK Day interferes with it.
okay,
So it's gonna push it, and so we can, maybe
Like-
it's a happy coincidence, but we can look at moving it around.
okay,
For special meeting notices, you just need to do it 18 hours before, and I think it would become a special meeting or a reschedule, but we'll talk more about
Okay,
it when
yeah,
I
we
look
can
at a
talk
calendar,
offline.
so, yeah.
all right, so we do have a motion and a second on the table, which I think we need to vote, so I guess, Casey, can we have a vote on Mr. Johnson's recommendation, please?
Andrew,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Dan,
No.
Dana,
Yes.
Christie.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
That did carry. I'll notify Mr. Johnson of that, and then we can obviously talk, Jeremy and I.
Yep, we
So
will.
then, John, I'm sorry, but you've been bumped off then, because Jeremy will stay on to keep the architectural filled.
I hadn't thought about it when we talked about the agenda.
Yeah.
About elections, but when I kind of flipped this page, thought about it, but you said we could do it in January.
Yeah, and I think I can move it to January. I need to look, Sharon had a calendar of when they usually happen, but I'll just put it there because I think it makes the most sense for us anyways, because that's naturally when terms end in this commission anyways, always. So I think it would make the most sense to have them in January.
Okay. I mean, we're not going to elect the newest people to be the chair, so
Yeah, I
it
don't,
sure feels like the people in this room would be the people to decide. So if we wanted to get it out of the way, I think we could. But if you want to wait till January, I think we can.
I just don't know if we could do it today technically because we didn't amend the agenda and it's not on the agenda.
Gotcha. Okay.
Would be my understanding, but, so I apologize.
No,
And
that's
if,
fine.
if you can't make it too, that's fine, and we can still, in January, we can still work things out. So it's not a very big deal, and we've had, Dan has held meetings before anyways, and I think you're right that it does make sense that the elder members would probably be the ones that would matriculate into those roles anyways, it seems to me. So, yeah, I wanted to thank both of you guys anyways for your service on the board. So I know that I was only with you for 1 year, but, you guys both completed your terms. So that's very good, and we've all appreciated your expertise on things, so thank you.
No, thanks for having us. I think it's
Here, here.
education for me, I know, so I've enjoyed it. All right. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Dana.
Second.
Thank you, Dan. Those in favor will say aye. Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned, 5:41. Thank you.